DC Pride issue 1. This is your big celebratory 80 plus page celebration. It says 100 pages in the solicit. The actual page count is something like 80. So I mean, I assume there's ads in the physical version which make it up to 100.
Yeah.
But so
and there's pinups that look
pinups.
very nice.
Yes.
You know.
Oh yeah, those count in the page count though.
No, I know, but I'm saying it's not like it's 80, 100 pages of just stories. You know, there's adding there and like in everything.
So I'll read a list of the stories here just from the contents page because finding this digitally every time is going to be a pain. So we have stories Wrong Side of the Looking Glass, which is by James Tynion IV with Trung Lee Win on art. We have By the Victors by Steve Orlando and Stephen Byrne. We have Try the Girl by Vita Yalea and Skylar Partridge. We have Another Word for the Truck to Move Your Furniture by Mariko Tamaki.
Such a weird title.
I know. That's Mariko Tamaki and Amy Reeder. And then we have He's the Light of My Life by Sam Johns and Klaus Janson. We have Clothes Makeup Gift by Danny Allure and Lisa Sterl. We have Be Gay, Do Crime by Sina Grace and Rose Stein.
Possibly the best title.
Ted Brandt. It's a good title. I can't deny it. We have Date Night by Nicole Maines and Rachel Stott. And we have Love Life by Andrew Wheeler and Luciano Vecchio. Maybe Vecchio. I'm mispronouncing that. So as with any of these, there's pin-ups, there's stories of varying lengths. The longest one may be like 15 pages. There's some that are only like 4. Typical stuff. And these are frustrating in a lot of ways because if you don't get over a certain percentage of stories that you really like, it really quickly becomes a chore to read. And this is one of these things where obviously this is for a good cause. It's got a really nice sentiment behind it, and it's out for Pride Month, all the rest of it. But I would say I only kind of liked a couple of the stories in this.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, and it's not like the characters are there. I like the majority of these characters already. But just a lot of the stories, like,
it's not even,
I don't know.
It's not even that they're particularly bad. It's like one of the problems that these anthologies fall into sometimes, especially when we're dealing with a lot of characters who don't get a lot of ongoing stories or ongoing series, typically at any given time, is that we end up just kind of doing the bullet points of who the character are rather than telling a new story. And I think the best example, even though it's got a nice ending, the best example of that is this very first story by Tynion, who's obviously a writer we love.
Yeah.
Right? And we have this Batwoman story. But my God, if I have to read one more Batwoman story about Alice.
Right.
Like
about her sister, and then because of the death of her mom and her sister, her dad and her got really into the military aspect.
Yes.
And it's just like I would have loved,
So
I see a Batwoman. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
I see a Batwoman story, and we haven't had her have an ongoing in a couple of years now.
Yes.
And she's such a rich character, that they could have told any story with her. And, but they just rehashed her origin.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It doesn't even explain it particularly well because it kind of does this thing with the Mad Hatter by the end. And it has like a neat little ending, but... And I like how she talks about how she always saw Beth, or in this case Alice, because it's kind of like a weird, manipulated memory, like through the looking glass, right? They really go with the whole, the metaphor and the idea that she's always been kind of the broken reflection of the normal sister kind of thing, right? And okay, the metaphors here are nice. What it's trying to say is very nice. Although I will say this art is not for me. Okay, it's just not my thing.
Neither.
Not my thing.
Now, coloring, I do like how the color works. Is the same artist doing the colors? Let me look.
For anyone who's like been listening to this show long enough that my taste in art, you probably knew this wasn't to my taste as soon as you looked at it. It's just not my thing.
I will say that I do love the colors because the way that they are, like Kate's red hair really pops against the blue, right? So it makes her feel like a standout. How she feels, she's going through like her sister being quote normal and her feeling like the other side of the mirror. And it makes her feel unique. And then when we start getting other colors mixed in there, like there's a page with Ivy, and then where she's talking about relationships with other people, and like Constantine's on there, and just with the way all the colors look together,
it's basically
it looks great.
It's basically
the pencils though. not a fan.
It's basically as she's finding herself and becoming herself as an adult and discovering that she is Batwoman, that she is gay, and she is this and she is that. Like it's as she's like discovering herself where the color starts to come more and more into it, which is again conceptually is a fine idea.
Right.
But for the most part, it's got this frustrating thing where it is just kind of we're doing the beats of like this book almost serves as here is a glossary of these characters, and for the most part, that's what you get of each one is just a basic idea of who they are.
Which and they had a nice forward by Draco. And there's one thing that stuck out with me where he said, DC's always kind of had a what's the word I'm looking for without just quoting him, a very, very I'm
gay?
Not gay. Diverse. Jeez.
Diverse, there you go.
I feel like I'm having a stroke. I kept wanting to say difficult. They're like, it's not difficult. It's diverse. It was off the tip of my tongue. Has a very diverse cast of characters, and that they don't just trot them out there, right? Like Montoya was a main character that wasn't like her defining feature wasn't that she was a lesbian, right? It was she was this hard up detective that, had issues with people and a bit of a drinking problem, and they weren't just trotted out for stuff. However, here there's certain characters that got brought up that I had no idea, it's like, well, where have they been? If we're not just trotting them out for appearances.
A large amount of the characters that get stories in this book don't have ongoings, or they're not main characters in ongoing books.
Well, I'm sure when we get to this next story, not Doctor Strange, I've never...
Yeah, I don't know this guy either.
This character.
All I could think is Constantine's got a Doctor Strange buddy, apparently.
Of course he does.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I know who Midnighter is, right? Is this a Wildstorm character I'm not familiar with, or is this somebody new? I mean, he's fighting a vampire.
For context here, this character, Giorgio, is telling a story about Midnighter taking him on a date, and in that context, it was going to a castle to take on this Count Berlin, who was a homophobic vampire.
Neo-Nazi vampire.
Yeah, who was trying to erase the gayer parts of history and straightwash it. So
Connor, he was trying to make Patroclus Achilles' friend, not lover.
Oh, so like they did in Troy.
Yes.
Where I think they were cousins.
Right,
or
which
something.
again, the metaphors here work. I just like.
Don't get me wrong. I think that movie is fun.
Yeah.
But they were very gay.
Well, he says so here. It says Berlin had stolen the bones of Patroclus, hot to rewrite the ancient warrior story with a spell, so that he and Achilles, some of our earliest heroes, weren't lovers but cousins.
Are they blaming this guy for that movie? Kind of sounds like.
So yeah, they're trying to blame neo-Nazi vampire Count Berlin. So for that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, even this dude what did you say his name was?
It was Giorgio, I think, was that?
He even has a red cape, and the how when Doctor Strange does the spells and you see the like discs,
the circle with the symbols in it, with the magic sort of like hologram, if you want to call it that. Yeah, he's got that. He's got exactly that.
Yeah.
So he's Doctor Strange.
Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. Oh no, sorry. Gregorio. Gregorio? What? He's got a weird name. I don't know who this is.
Yeah. I will say that the Stephen Byrne art is great. Like, it's very moody for it's a vampire story, right? Them going into the castle.
I will say this. So what? See if the point of this story was to introduce this character because he's not as well known to most people. That would be fine if it actually did a good job of introducing who he was. But they mention his name once briefly at the start, and then Constantine comes and talks to him, and he tells this story about him and Midnighter, and I'm like, yes, but who are you? I still don't know who you are.
Yeah.
I've googled him. Extrano was created by Steve Englehart and Joe Stan, first appearing in Millennium issue 2. However, in the Prime Earth continuity, first appeared as part of New 52's Midnighter and Apollo by Steve Orlando.
There you go. And this is a Steve Orlando. So
Story,
cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
On paper, this story sounds great. You tell me this team up go to like take on a neo-Nazi vampire. Like that sounds like fun.
Wait. Extraño. Y'all want to know what that means in Spanish?
Go on.
Strange. Yeah, Gregorio de la Vega, minor magician. He's from the Guardians of the Universe. He was selected, anyways. Wow.
I'm just gonna call him Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
Goro Strange.
Yeah. So also, Constantine being queer, is that a thing that's been established?
Yes.
Yeah, he's been alive for decades.
Yeah, he's been sleeping with everyone who moves for
Gotcha.
forever.
I just didn't know if this was him just using Constantine here,
that's
because of magic.
I say bi because that's what people are doing, but I would suspect pan is probably a more accurate description, given that I said anything with a pulse, basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hence, when I don't know, I just use the queer term just because it kind of covers,
including King Shark, if you recall.
Right. I don't.
But
it was in one of the animated movies.
Wait, Constantine had it off with King Shark?
Yeah, in one of the animated movies, he was like, "Oh, that's my ex," and they were like, "Wait, that them?" And he's like, "No, the other one," and it cuts and it's just King Shark.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so that his inclusion here then, because again, I thought just magic. That's what we're doing with Constantine.
Yeah. So this oddly felt kind of flat, despite the fact that selling me on two guys going to kill a neo-Nazi vampire sounds like an easy sell.
Yeah.
And sorry, an Orlando story fell flat.
I know.
I gotta get over that his name means strange. Oh, come on.
They should have went with like Sergio Strange as his name. Just make it as close as possible.
Yeah.
What's the closest we can go without getting sued?
Probably this close, given how he looks.
But he is here, and this is what's good on Orlando. It says Extraño is noted for being the first openly gay superhero in DC Comics, and that was in the '80s. So the fact he went back and put him in Apollo and Midnighter.
No, I can respect that. Yeah, I can respect that he picked him for that reason. That's the legacy of the characters. He's the first openly gay one. But
however, possibly problematic as they put him in a HIV storyline where he was killed by an AIDS vampire named Hemogoblin.
What?
Sorry, what's going on here?
Okay, the 80s were a weird place.
Yeah, the 80s were like, on one hand, first openly gay DC character, other hand, killed by an AIDS vampire.
But, I still see the value in it though, because the whole idea is you're showing them respect by bringing them back under better circumstances.
Yeah,
so
and that's great. Let's get rid of that part, the back half of that, and let's have it be new. Just let's tone down the Doctor Strangeness. Let's make him his own character.
It's just
gay DC Doctor Strange isn't enough of a difference, right? Like
yeah, it's odd. It's just. I mean, I guess there's lots of stories here where it doesn't necessarily explain who the characters are. You're just expected to know them from DC knowledge if you do know them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe this one just stuck out because both of us didn't know who it was.
Right.
And we read a lot of DC.
Great. Yeah, good on Orlando for bringing that, because now we know who he is, and
I just wish the story itself did a little to help.
Yeah. Right. Well, maybe this could have served. If any character needed a rehash of the origin, maybe Extraño. Not Batwoman.
Not Batwoman. Yeah, Batwoman is good.
Okay.
And even then, if you're going to do it, just do it in one page. You'll do it, like the origin of Batwoman, blah blah blah, sister, blah blah blah, father, blah blah blah. Right? Okay, go story. Like, next story is Try the Girl. This is the VA one. This is the Question Renee Montoya story. I thought this was all right. Actually, this is a simple little 4 or 5 page story.
I missed the question, or the Montoya question.
Oh, of course.
So I mean, seeing her here, I'm happy. Like, I get she's commissioner right now through Tynan's Batman and whatever's going on over there in Gotham. But reading this was a nice addition here.
But she's not being wasted. She's she's in an important position. It's not like the character herself's been forgotten. This is just a nice throwback to her Question days.
And it feels like a Rucka story, so I'll give Ayala credit, because Ayala's been real hit or miss with me, especially in anthology stories, but this definitely felt like a Rucka question story, just because, looking for this, what was she, a public defender? A defense attorney.
Well, she's running for office now.
Council.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ran for city council. She, she's, running on the corruption in the police force, and so that's put a lot of crosshairs on her because she is a public defender. And so Renee goes to track her down, but in grand fashion, this lady can handle herself, as we see.
Important. She goes missing. It's the sister of the character who's went missing, who reaches out to question to go find her. And there's a lot of build up to it, but then when she gets there after a couple of fight sequences, it turns out that she's already got herself out of ties and has beat the crap out of the guys that were holding her. And the whole charm of this story is that Renee's kind of attracted to her, and goes to sort of support her after her winning speech. And it ends with her kissing Renee, and she has the lipstick mark on her mask, and it's just a kind of a sweet ending. It's Renee being kind of just floored by someone who's tough and strong, and it works because it's simple. It works because it's not trying to retell anything. It's just here's a story about someone who Renee's attracted to, and it works.
Well, and it's someone that is just as tough as she is. Renee definitely has a type, right? And that's what I like here, is that it plays into that trope that. And
also, it's one of the, I'd say, few stories in the book where I really like the art, because there was definitely a lot in this book where I was kind of
And it's moody. It fits that dark side of Gotham. So Skylar Patridge, very good job. Colors too. Jose Villarrubia. Colors are nice too. Little watercolory feely.
And it's nice at the end as well that Renee seems a bit starstruck and awestruck by the kiss, and it's just because she's such a tough character who's usually quite foul-mouthed and ready to hit back. The idea of her being left standing speechless is a nice little character touch.
And what I like too is it says just the beginning on the last panel, so maybe this is sowing the seeds for maybe a Renee question mini or a series, an ongoing.
Maybe,
that'd be cool. I would definitely support it.
Yeah, it's possible. But I say Renee, unlike a lot of the characters in this book, does actually have an ongoing story that's actually bleeding into multiple books. So she is being used in some fashion right now, which is nice.
Yes.
So after this, we have a Harley and Ivy story, which is basically boils down to Ivy being mad that Harley's not ready to call it a relationship. Only for Harley to basically be like, oh wait, really? That's what the problem is? Of course this is a relationship. Of course we're a couple. Blah 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 blah. That's basically while they're fighting a giant weird plant monster. That's
a giant. That's kind of a mix. It's but it's the subtext here that it's not the plant that's causing plant monster that's causing the tension, right? It's Ivy's feelings. I would recommend Connor tracking this one down if he has time. Because I was getting Harley and Ivy vibes from the series on HBO Max. So think you'd enjoy that. But this one's fun. Amy Reeder's art is kind of hit or miss with me. Harley looks kind of weird. Like her hair ends up looking like the second Power Girl that we ran into in Deathstroke.
Oh,
her
sure.
hair looks like it has pom-poms. Versus the more traditional that I'm used to with almost the pigtail vibes. And Harley's wearing a weird hat. It has a flower on it. It's almost like a cabbie hat.
You mean Ivy?
Ivy, I'm sorry, yeah. But I will say the layouts. I am a fan of how they do the layouts, even with the heart shapes throughout, as they're discussing things. And it's very, there's not a typical angle with the panels throughout most of it, right? They're all kind of, a little bit curved throughout. So
there's a lot of heart panels and things like that. This is one where, I wouldn't say the art's bad, but it's definitely not to my taste. It's not as against my taste as that first story was, where I really kind of hated it. But definitely not my type of thing. And Harley and Ivy, I like the characters well enough, but I'm not as invested in their pairing or whatever. So that's for me, which is kind of fine. But it was the the sort of thing where if this was just on its own in a book, I wouldn't have read the book. I would have skipped it.
Yeah,
so,
I get that.
So it is what it is. I get why they're represented here, though. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most interesting story, partly because it has some continuity. Because the last time we had, what book was it that had the Alan Scott coming out story?
It was the Green Lantern one.
It was originally the Green Lantern one, and then we got a little bit more in the Infinite Frontier Zero.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So this actually follows on from that. This is Alan meeting with his son and meeting his son's boyfriend in particular for the first time.
That makes this the first part of that story, not by Tynan and Byrne, who did both previous parts.
Sam Johns is to Tynan what Tynan was to Snyder. So.
Oh, really?
It's feeling, yeah. I've noticed Sam Johns' name pop up on a lot of Tynan stuff. So maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I've seen them collaborate a lot. So I feel like Tynan's, has a work relationship with
a little bit of a protege going
similar. On. Yeah. So I like that though, because I like when writers can do that. Like, this is my guy, let's give them a shot to write something that I've done before. But this is, I think, my favorite story. Definitely up to this point, and as we go.
In the book, sure, yeah. So what this is Alan is meeting his son's boyfriend for the first time. They're at this old cafe that was actually, even back in like his day, was like a queer friendly place. Obviously, it was a bit more hush hush back then, but
under hush hush, it was for, as he said, quote, confirmed bachelors.
Yes,
you kind of knew what you were getting into, but you still had to keep it because of the time period.
But the big thing with the story here is that he talks about how the first time he kind of fell for a man, and he tells this story to Obsidian and
to Todd.
Yeah, and it's just all very sad, and they eventually go somewhere so he can just project the memories with the ring and kind of show him more of the story rather than just tell him. And the actual heart of it, though, is ultimately, why he was inspired to actually finally come out after all this time, is because, he got to see his son be, public and be in a pride parade, do whatever, and the idea that he had people around him to support him in any situations. And one of the things that made him reflect upon was the idea that when his first love did die on this train, that he basically had no one he could talk to about it. He had no one he could express how much he meant to him, or how devastating this was that he lost the love of his life. He had to do it completely alone, and how much regret he had over having to go through it that way. And that's why he finally. So he's like, I came out because of you. You inspired me to come out, and it's a really nice sentiment at the end. So this is probably the best story in the book, because it advances a character story that's going on right now, that's doesn't just feel like it's reiterating things. It feels like it tells another part of the story. Obviously it's a character we all love, which is also like a good starting point. But I wasn't necessarily in love with the art, I will say.
It's Jansen. It's very Romita-esque. But it didn't bother me. It was fine. But yeah, definitely the sentiment on this one, I really enjoyed. Just the whole father-son aspect and him learning from his son, and I felt weirdly when you have a superhero and his sometimes supervillain son, yet it being the most human of the stories. Like that's always a good, a good vibe.
Yeah, it's just the art is like, it's a bit messy in places. The faces are a bit blocky. I hate to say that something feels rushed, but I think Jansen's art to me always looks rushed just because of the style. And yeah, so art wasn't setting the world on fire, but it's by far the most interesting story, I think, in the book, and definitely the most exciting going forward. Because again, this doesn't feel like it's the end of this journey. It feels like this is just the next part of the Alan Scott story right now, which is being told in little snippets over different parts of DC. Your mic's going there, Matt. Just as we transition into the next story, which is a future Flash story. So this is the Flash from Future State, who we see on a date with their girlfriend. Oh well, not yet.
Andy.
They're going on a date later, rather.
Yeah.
And the joke is that they're going to be late because Flashes are always late.
Right.
So.
And Jess, the new Flash, is trying to fight that because, you know, no, I don't have to do what the other Flashes do. I'm my own Flash. I'm not going to be late. And of course, as they're trying to get ready for the date, of course, superhero shenanigans happen.
Naturally. And it kind of mixes it with trying on different outfits. And this one, I think, had pretty decent art for a start, which is nice. So that's cool. I think what this benefited from is that this is a character who was just recently kind of introduced for the first time in Future State. So it served as a nice kind of bit of focus that the character never really got in that. Because, you know, they were in the Justice League book, they popped up, they had like a story within that, but this was like a nice bit of focus for just this character on their own.
Yeah, because I remember them making a big deal about this Flash being non-binary, and I was like, okay, great. And then we didn't get much of this Flash. Like, they tease all that, and then they show up and are just doing Flash things. So here to actually see the relationship build, it's real nice. And I feel like I want to see more of this Flash. So
yeah, I like the personality so far. I like the facing this new Mirror Master, although they go by the name Reflect, just to be edgy and cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a bit of a fight sequence. This gets a few more pages than I'd say a lot of the stories do. So they're giving us a bit of time to actually really tell a story of a new character. And you know, it ends with obviously the date happening, and it's sweet. So it was fun. The character seems bubbly, and the sense of humor and the type of dialogue does definitely fit with what you think of as a Flash. You know, it sounds like something that maybe Wally might, you know, think through in his head, or Barry might think through in his head. So yeah, that's there. We moved on to the Pied Piper story. This is the Be Gay Do Crime. So the best title of the stories.
Easily.
For sure. I have to admit though, this is a scene of grace with Rostein and Ted Brandt on this book, or on this story. And I have to admit, the dialogue in this one was making me cringe a bit too often.
Yeah.
A bit too hip and a bit too, you know, down with the kids for my taste.
Yeah. I'll get you on that one, old man. But yeah.
It's not even so. This is the thing. People crack old age jokes, even though I'm 32. It's hardly aged. But it's not even that. It's like, even when I was younger, like if I saw people try to put phrases like they're in this story into a story, it would make me cringe, because it has no place in written work. It has no place in a.
But also, you're old.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
But also, as a Scotsman, you hate when people type out in Scots dialect.
Oh, I do. Right? I hate people typing out in slang in general. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And
you know, it is. Yeah. But no, and the story I like. It's who's this the drummer using Piper's tech to, you know, the area of town that they live in is basically getting gentrified, and you know, they accuse Piper of you know, basically kind of selling out. And you know, he's just one of the rich people that's profiting off of this, you know, this up and coming part of town. And you know, the landlord's raising all their rent, so they're gonna, you know, use the tech to get even. And you know, Piper ends up having to intervene and whatnot. So I did like the conceit of the story, but like Pete said, the dialogue was just a little bit too much for me.
Yeah. It basically just ends with Piper buying all the property so that he can just, you know, give people you know, fair and affordable rents, and that's the end of it. So cool. Whatever.
Yeah.
Next up we have the Dreamer story, the Nicole Maines written one, which is very much set in the world of the show. You know, it references Brainy, it references, you know, National City, all that stuff. It's very much just meant to be a slice inside the show. Did you think this was strange? How it kind of felt like it was setting up an ongoing story?
It did. So yeah, which I stopped watching Supergirl a while ago. Was Dreamer an actual superhero?
Yes, that did happen before I stopped watching too. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Before.
Yeah, a good season or so. Yeah.
Like, I just remember Dreamer being like, I remember seeing the suit, but I didn't know if she was a full hero. Like, I don't know if that was the thing, because, again, everything's murky. I just remember the relationship with Brainy and how great that was.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever got to the point where she was out just doing her own cases like she is in this issue, but I mean, she was showing up in costume. She was helping fight things.
It's nice that Nicole Maines writes it because I feel that she has a grasp over this character better than most, right? Except for maybe the writers of the TV show.
That's what I was going to say. That's maybe the only people who you could give more credit to at this point.
Yeah, and so just the whole like not wanting to bother Kara and being like, I do my own thing throughout the city, and then the League, was it the League of Shadows?
Yeah, League of Shadows.
Yeah.
Which is the stuff that feels like it's setting up because she's like, I don't want to tell Kara about this. And there was kind of a hint of like the stuff they had, this like vial of, I assume, Lazarus juice.
Yeah.
Maybe this is setting up that there might be a Supergirl book to follow up some of those stories.
Yeah.
Possibly. Unless they've done something really weird and this is like actually a tease for one of the plots they've got coming up in the final season that's airing now.
Could be.
Maybe they actually put thought into it and had it tie in.
Possible, yeah.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Then Dreamer and Brainy go on a date, and the joke is that because she wants to interrogate this League of Assassins or Shadows dude, she basically brings him handcuffed to her to the date. And Brainy just kind of cracks some jokes and shrugs it off, and like, okay, we're weird and quirky, so this is fine. So pleasant enough.
I'll never be mad at Stott art ever. I like Rachel Stott's art a lot.
It's always good.
Yeah. So it fit here.
Yeah. So that was okay. Yeah, that didn't set my world on fire by any means, but it was fine. And then we have what I believe is the last story, Love Life. This is the Jackson story, which because we had that book announcement, I was kind of expecting this to maybe have a tease or a lead-in to the book. And it doesn't really have that. It's just more just kind of an examination of what the Pride Parade means to queer people and why it's important. Because he's at his first parade with his friend,
who I think is the protege to Extraño.
Oh yeah, because they mentioned this is the thing, they start referencing this guy, the gay Doctor Strange from story number 2, and I'm like, oh wait, why is this guy so important all of a sudden? He's coming up everywhere.
Now we know. Of course, in the Pride issue, they're gonna prop him up. Like, great. Wish we would have done that before.
I've got a pretty good guess. When I looked him up on that wiki page, it said he was affiliated with Justice League Queer, which was one of the books in that tournament that DC did. That they're definitely not going to release all the books.
Well, this feels like the backdoor pilot.
Yeah, because they show up in this story.
We even had, I think it was probably the writer of one of these particular stories that's relating to it. Kind of said not to spoil anything, but if you really want to see Justice League Queer, maybe go buy the Pride book and stuff might happen in the future. So I would expect it.
Yeah. Yeah, basically Eclipso shows up and rains on the parade. Literally. Has it rained?
Literally.
Yeah, it's on the parade. And Jackson goes to fight, but then, the
doesn't have to do it alone.
Yeah, the protege dude goes to get help, and then our Goro, he shows up with JLQ. But Batwoman's there, the Ray's there, Natasha Steele's there.
Tracy 13 there in the background.
Yeah.
Apollo Midnighter.
Oh, the couple from Taylor's Suicide Squad is there as well.
Yeah.
Arian Wing.
There you go, Arian Wing. So it's one of these things where the sentiment of this final one's very good. It's a little on the nose at times. It gets a little bit like, and this is why Pride is important. This is what Pride means, and it's like. So as a piece of writing, it's a little bit it's a little bit too in my face to really enjoy it as a story, but I get why they're doing it. It's fine.
Yeah, definitely. This is one I'll be honest, I did not finish this one, just for the sake of time. But I now knowing about Extraño and all of this, and then how this ties into JLQ and whatnot, like. I mean, that's cool.
I can't believe we're going to have Doctor Strange as the leader of JLQ in like 6 or 7 months' time.
Extraño.
Yeah. So, the art wasn't really working for me. It's a little bit too cartoony.
I can see that.
It's very, very manga-esque, and we all know my feelings about that. But yeah, so and that's really why I was like, this is going. So I thumbed through it. I saw Eclipso. Got real excited, saw the JLQ page, and that's cool. But yeah.
Yeah, this is a frustrating thing to sort of rate as a whole, because obviously the sentiment behind it, the reason why it exists, the purpose of it is very well intentioned, and there's a reason why we made a point of reading this and talking about it when we wouldn't necessarily do it for like the Valentine's Day anthology book or whatever, is because we want to show support when they do something like this, which is very well intentioned. But the truth is that a lot of it was a bit of a chore to get through. The two that I would hold up is the short question story. I thought was nice and pleasant, and I like that. And I thought the Alan Scott ones actually seems very worthwhile going forward. And that's not to say that some other people won't find meaning in some of the other stories. I get if they do, but this was kind of like, oh man, this is really long. I'm not like and it's not just, most of them aren't even bad stories. Most of them are just they're just okay.
And I know a lot of people in the community that are very excited for this representation and that like that's great. Like I'm glad they're getting all of that, and maybe this can become a reoccurring thing in June. DC can have an anthology book.
I would honestly,
characters.
I would bet money there's going to be one next year.
Yeah, so like, just maybe let's have like stories where we're not recapping origins again, and and actually give these characters stuff to do to spin them out into minis or ongoings like they do in other specials, Yeah.
And to be fair, at least the final story with Jackson didn't just tell us who Jackson was. It actually,
true.
It gave us something that was actually it was about something. It had a statement. Same as some of the other ones, but it's just one of these murky things where you sometimes just feel like you don't really get a story out of these little minis. You just get kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like here's a 101 of the character in a quick period of time. And the one character who I really felt we needed an explanation of, maybe tell us why he's so important. Why is this character? Why is Extrano so important?
That'd be nice.
What are you rating them at then?
I mean, I'll give it a 7, just because it's such a mixed bag, but it has 2 really strong stories in there, and then the mixed bag of the rest of them. Nothing that's, I wouldn't say none of them were bad. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the art in a lot of them, but like outside a couple of things, that was fine.
Yeah. I'm going to be a little meaner and go 6, just because I did kind of feel the churn of having to get through a lot of it, and there was a couple of bright spots, and I do really appreciate what the point of the book is, but ultimately I didn't actually love reading a lot of it, so there you go.